Chapter 72. The Emperor of Tang's old age was no longer a secret. If it weren't for the purple-clothed eunuch, the court would have been in chaos. But even so, the princes were still fighting openly and secretly, and all the dukes had different thoughts. Even the vassals from all over the country had bet on one of the princes. Originally, in everyone's eyes, the Emperor of Tang would eventually appoint one of the most promising princes as the crown prince. After all, among the many sons of the Emperor of Tang, except for these princes who had some ability, the others were basically just playing around and waiting for death. However, what no one expected was that the Emperor of Tang would eventually choose Prince Li Sheng as the crown prince. Prince Li Sheng was the son of the Emperor of Tang left outside and was brought into the palace a few years ago. The ministers and the princes also knew about this, but they never thought that Prince Li Sheng would be appointed as the crown prince one day. Because Prince Li Sheng's foundation was too shallow. Shaolin Temple. Su Qin's divine sense swept over and happened to hear some disciples talking about the Emperor of Tang's appointment as the new crown prince. Oh! He was indeed appointed as the crown prince. Su Qin touched his chin, a thoughtful look in his eyes. When he first saw Li Sheng in the family Su mansion, he saw that he carried nearly 1/10 of the fate of the Empire of Tang. As long as such a person didn't die in the future, it was only a matter of time before he ascended the throne. The Empire of Tang, Chang and City. Su Qin's heart skipped a beat. The Empire of Tang had been established for 500 years, but the capital of the Empire of Tang, Chang and City, was the ancient capital of 10 dynasties and had a history of thousands of years. For thousands of years, the periphery of Chang and City may have been renovated countless times, but the core of the imperial city had never changed. Even the jade palaces and lofty palaces in the imperial city were the same as they were thousands of years ago. To some extent, the imperial city of Chang and had witnessed the rise and fall of 10 dynasties that had stood on the earth for thousands of years. Ancient capital of the 10 dynasties. The Daoist connotation that Chang and City has accumulated over the past thousands of years is probably similar to that of the Shaolin Temple. Su Qin's eyes lit up and he was excited. Although Su Qin had never been to Chang and City in person, he guessed that there must be a lot of Taoist connotation in Chang and City based on its thousands of years of history. It was enough for Su Qin to sign in for a long time. When the Shaolin Temple's Taoist connotation is exhausted, I can make a trip to Chang'an. Su Qin's thoughts fluctuated. Speaking of signing in, I haven't used my sign-in opportunity today. Su Qin suddenly thought of something, and his figure disappeared. When he reappeared, he was already outside the scripture depository. In the past, I've signed in at the Bodhi court dozens of times. Now that I have enough glazed golden cores, I'll sign in at the scripture pavilion today. Su Qin muttered in his heart, "System, sign in for me. Congratulations to the host for signing in successfully. You have received the past Amitabha Sutra." A cold, mechanical voice sounded in Su Qin's ears. Past Amitabha Sutra? Su Qin's expression changed slightly. The past Amitabha Sutra is one of the supreme scriptures of Buddhism, on par with the Tathagata Sutra and the Sutra of Future Death. It's at the highest level. Even if it's not as powerful as the Buddha's palm, it's probably not far from it. However, the Shaolin Temple has been open for thousands of years. Even the Patriarch Bodhidharma, who is known to have incorporated many supreme techniques, has never comprehended the past Amitabha Sutra, let alone others. To a certain extent, the past Amitabha Sutra is not for mortals to comprehend. Su Qin didn't expect that this time, he would sign in for this supreme scripture. I've really made a fortune this time. Su Qin was overjoyed. A smile appeared on his face as he turned around and returned to the back mountain. For others, even if they obtained the original copy of the past Amitabha Sutra, it was useless, because they wouldn't be able to comprehend the profoundness contained within. Therefore, in the eyes of most people, the past Amitabha Sutra wasn't even as useful as the Arhat Fist. At least, as long as one studied the Arhat Fist seriously, even an ordinary person would be able to comprehend it in a few months. But what about the past Amitabha Sutra? No matter how talented you are or how high your comprehension ability is, What's the use if you can't understand it? But Su Qin is different from others. The secret manuals obtained through the system will be instilled by the system, automatically becoming proficient in them. And the difficulty of the past Amitabha Sutra is that it can't be grasped at all. In other words, the most difficult part of the past Amitabha Sutra is actually the easiest in Su Qin's eyes. Just as Su Qin was thinking, all kinds of comprehensions about the past Amitabha Sutra continuously surged into Su Qin's heart. In a trance, in the depths of Su Qin's mind, a Buddha of the past faintly condensed, looking at the present and the future from the distant past. Boom! Su Qin's mind shook, and he suddenly opened his eyes. The past Amitabha Sutra is indeed worthy of being the supreme scripture of Buddhism. Su Qin nodded slightly. Even a venerable arhat like him can't help but be immersed in the past Amitabha Sutra. The past Amitabha Sutra is a mental cultivation method to circulate true essence. With a thought, Su Qin's true essence began to circulate along a special path. Before obtaining the past Amitabha Sutra, Su Qin's mental cultivation method was the Great Arhat Divine Art. The Great Arhat Divine Art is a mental cultivation method at the level of Venerable Arhat. It can greatly increase Su Qin's cultivation speed, and also increase his comprehension and control of heaven and earth. It can be said that the Great Arhat Divine Art is a top-notch mental cultivation method at the level of Arhat. But now, with the past Amitabha Sutra, which is of a much higher level than the Great Arhat Divine Art, Su Qin naturally didn't hesitate to change the Great Arhat Divine Art. Su Qin sat cross-legged, and the true essence of Arhat in his body circulated rapidly, constantly circulating according to the past Amitabha Sutra. As the past Amitabha Sutra circulated, a storm of heaven and earth essence chi 10 times larger than before was suddenly set off in the forbidden area of the back mountain. Countless heaven and earth essence chi condensed into a huge funnel shape, madly pouring into Su Qin's body. Time passed slowly. The storm of heaven and earth essence chi that gathered in the forbidden area of the back mountain not only did not dissipate, but gradually spread toward the entire Shaolin Temple. For a moment, a storm seemed to have formed in the sky above the Shaolin Temple, vast and mighty, covering everything. What is that? Many disciples of the Shaolin Temple looked up, dumbfounded. They were all just doing their own things, cultivating and working, but they didn't expect the heaven and earth to suddenly change, and endless heaven and earth essence chi gathered together, covering everything. Abbot Huiwen and the court heads were the first to gather together. The essence chi is like rain. This is a phenomenon caused by the venerables when they have a major breakthrough in their cultivation. Abbot Huiwen muttered to himself with a solemn face. The court heads looked at each other and swallowed their saliva. In their eyes, the venerables were like immortals, standing at the top of the world. They simply couldn't imagine, if the venerables continued to break through, what would happen. And just as the disciples of the Shaolin Temple were discussing spiritedly, in the forbidden area of the back mountain, Su Qin, who was sitting cross-legged, suddenly opened his eyes. Chapter 73. I didn't expect the past Amitabha Sutra to be so powerful. Su Qin was amazed. He had only cultivated the past Amitabha Sutra for an hour, and he felt that his strength had increased as much as 10 days of hard work. The glazed golden core has also shrunk. Su Qin seemed to have sensed something as he muttered to himself. Normally, a glazed golden core would take Su Qin 1 to 2 months to absorb it. Because the glazed golden core contained too much medicinal power, even someone like Su Qin Arhat would need time to digest and absorb it. But just now, when Su Qin circulated the past Amitabha Sutra, he found that the glazed golden core in his lower abdomen was melting at a terrifying speed. Not bad, not bad. At this rate, I will be able to step into the second heaven of Arhat in a year at most. Su Qin's eyes lit up. Without the past Amitabha Sutra, even with the help of the glazed golden core, Su Qin would need close to 10 years to break through. But now, the time was shortened by more than 10 times. And this was because the breakthrough of Arhat was not just about the accumulation of energy, but more importantly, it was about the understanding of heaven and earth. Otherwise, Su Qin's breakthrough would be even faster. Rumor has it that if one fully understands the past Amitabha Sutra, the Tathagata Sutra, and the future Amitabha Sutra, the three supreme scriptures of Buddhism, one will truly be free and unfettered. Su Qin's expression was slightly yearning. Unfortunately, although there are many benefits to cultivating the past Amitabha Sutra, the consumption of the glazed golden core is still too fast, Su Qin thought to himself. Originally, a complete glazed golden core was enough for Su Qin to absorb for 1 to 2 months, but now, he would probably have to take a second glazed golden core in a week. There's some commotion outside? Su Qin's mind moved, and his terrifying divine sense quickly enveloped the entire Shaolin Temple. Although the vitality storm outside had begun to dissipate as Su Qin stopped cultivating, it was obvious that it would not completely disappear in a short time. Outside the back mountain forbidden area, Abbot Huiwen and the court heads were hesitating whether or not they should enter. After all, the commotion just now was quite big. Even if Abbot Huiwen speculated based on the ancient books in the temple that Su Qin had made a breakthrough in his cultivation, he was still worried. Suddenly, at this moment, a calm voice resounded in the ears of Abbot Huiwen and the court heads. Abbot Huiwen and the court heads immediately bowed slightly. Meanwhile, outside the Emperor of Tang's palace, Prince Lixing still had a look of disbelief on his face. Father made me the crown prince? Prince Lixing blinked his eyes in bewilderment. Although he had known his identity years ago, that he was a descendant of the imperial family. However, Lixing had never dreamed that he would one day become the crown prince. What was the crown prince? No matter in which dynasty, the crown prince was second only to the emperor, and after the emperor died, he was the rightful candidate to sit on the throne. It could be said that if Lixing became the crown prince, he would be the future master of the Empire of Tang. Yunter, is this true? Lixing looked at Su Yueyun next to him. As early as a few years ago, he followed eunuch Lu to the imperial palace, and not long after, he brought Su Yueyun here. Don't be too happy. It's not a good thing for you to become the crown prince, Su Yueyun shook his head and said. It's not a good thing. Prince Lixing also calmed down. Even he himself had never thought of becoming the crown prince, let alone others. The most important thing was, the Emperor of Tang made him the crown prince. What would the other princes think? What would the ministers in the imperial court think? Over the years, Lixing's brothers had been fighting openly and secretly for the position of the crown prince, and they had almost shed all pretenses of cordiality. Would they allow the position of the crown prince to fall on Lixing's head? There were also the ministers in the imperial court. They had long placed their bets on a certain prince, and bet everything that they had on the prince being able to inherit the throne. If the crown prince was gone in the end, what would these ministers who had already taken sides think? Just thinking about it quickly made Prince Lixing's scalp tingle, and he felt as if he had fallen into a hopeless situation. Don't worry. Since His Majesty has made such a decision, there must be a reason for it. Su Yueyun comforted him. I hope so. Lixing nodded stiffly. At this moment, suddenly, a servant hurriedly rushed in. Your Highness, someone from the imperial palace is here. Someone from the imperial palace is here? Prince Lixing was slightly taken aback, and immediately said, I know, I'll go over now. So, Lixing took Su Yueyun outside. At this moment, the door had long been surrounded by the Forbidden Army, and a eunuch wearing a purple official uniform was standing there with a smile. Purple? Lixing only felt a roar in his head. Having been in Shang and for so long, Lixing naturally knew what purple represented in the imperial palace. That was the head eunuch Zhao, who was second only to the Emperor of Tang in the entire imperial palace. Under normal circumstances, eunuch Zhao would serve the Emperor of Tang, and it was absolutely impossible for him to leave the imperial palace. But now eunuch Zhao appeared outside the door. Thinking of this, Lixing felt a little scared. Your Highness. Seeing Lixing come out, eunuch Zhao bowed slightly. Eunuch Zhao. Lixing immediately returned the bow with a solemn expression. I am under His Majesty's order to take your Highness to the Eastern Palace. Eunuch Zhao said slowly. The Eastern Palace? Lixing was slightly taken aback, and said, I'll pack up right away and go to the Eastern Palace with Eunuch Xiao. There's no need. Eunuch Xiao shook his head slightly and said, Your Highness can go with me now. As for the things, the Eastern Palace has prepared everything. But Li Sheng looked hesitant. He looked at Su Yueyun and asked tentatively, Then Yun and I will go to the Eastern Palace with Eunuch Xiao. Eunuch Xiao looked at Su Yueyun and shook his head. Only the Crown Prince and the Crown Princess can stay in the Eastern Palace. As for others, they can't enter. Although Su Yueyun was Li Sheng's wife, she had not been officially conferred the title of Crown Princess. After all, even Li Sheng had only been informed today that he had become the Crown Prince. How could he have had the time to confer the title to Su Yueyun? You go to the Eastern Palace first. I'm not in a hurry. Su Yueyun saw Li Sheng hesitate and immediately said in a low voice. The one standing in front of them was Eunuch Xiao. If Li Sheng's hesitation angered Eunuch Xiao, it would probably cause trouble for the Emperor of Tang. Your Highness, let's go. Eunuch Xiao saw that Li Sheng did not respond and frowned, then glanced at Su Yueyun again. With this glance, Eunuch Xiao glanced at the jade pendant that Su Yueyun had been wearing this entire time. The jade pendant was extremely ordinary, but Su Yueyun carried it close to her body. It was clear that she valued it very much. However, Eunuch Xiao seemed to notice something. His gaze instantly focused on the jade pendant at Su Yueyun's waist. The more Eunuch Xiao looked, the more his heart palpitated. In the end, his expression changed, and his face filled with disbelief. Chapter 74. This is a strand of divine sense of a peak first grade? Eunuch Xiao's expression was extremely solemn as he stared at the jade pendant hanging on Su Yueyun's waist. Although the strand of divine sense in the jade pendant was hidden very deeply, Eunuch Xiao was also a peak first grade. If he wanted to, it naturally could not be hidden from him. What exactly is going on? Could it be that the commoner woman His Highness married has a peak first grade backing her? Eunuch Xiao only felt that it was extremely absurd. How rare is a peak first grade? Which one of them does not oversee a region and live a carefree life? The Emperor of Tang hid Li Sheng among the commoners. Eunuch Xiao also knew. Even Eunuch Lu, who had always been secretly protecting Li Sheng, was arranged by Eunuch Xiao. Eunuch Xiao knew everything about Li Sheng like the back of his hand. As for the daughter of the family Su who married Li Sheng, as well as all the information about the family Su, it was naturally placed in front of Eunuch Xiao long ago. What Eunuch Xiao did not even dream of was that the daughter of the family Su in his eyes was actually a peak first grade backing her. Could it be a coincidence? This jade pendant was coincidentally picked up by Su Yueyun? Eunuch Xiao's thoughts turned quickly, but in the end he rejected this idea. There were only so many peak first grade in the world, and even fewer peak first grade who could condense divine sense. As for being willing to split a strand of divine sense and place it in the jade pendant, there were almost no peak first grade. How could the jade pendant Su Yueyun picked up by coincidence be related to a peak first grade? Splitting one's divine sense, if one does not have the relevant secret technique, even for a peak first grade, it will consume one's origin. Unless it's someone who really values him, no peak rank one would do that. In a flash, Eunuch Xiao's thoughts fluctuated. Who is it? One possibility after another flashed through Eunuch Xiao's mind. And just as Eunuch Xiao was thinking, Prince Li Sheng was obviously persuaded by Su Yueyun, and was prepared to temporarily go to the East Palace with Eunuch Xiao. After some time, he would ask the Emperor of Tang for the Crown Princess to confer Su Yueyun the Crown Princess title, and then he would take Su Yueyun. Eunuch Xiao, let's go. Li Sheng reluctantly looked at Su Yueyun and said to Eunuch Xiao. Actually, it's not impossible, it's not negotiable. Eunuch of Su Yueyun of His Highness, Princess Su, it's only a matter of time. Sooner or it's Prince's princess. Princess. And it? Eunuch Xiao glanced at the jade pendant on Su Yueyun's waist, bowed slightly and said, Please follow me. Eunuch Xiao said this. Prince Li Sheng and Su Yueyun were stunned. What was going on? Why did Eunuch Xiao suddenly change his mind? Although Li Sheng had never interacted with Eunuch Xiao before, He had a rough idea of what kind of person Eunuch Xiao was from the rumors spread by others. In the entire palace, except for His Majesty, no one could change Eunuch Xiao's mind. The princes could not. The ministers could not. But now, Prince Li Sheng and Su Yueyun looked at each other and could only bite the bullet and follow Eunuch Xiao. Half a day later, the Emperor of Tang's palace. Your Majesty, the commoner girl that His Highness married has a great identity. Eunuch Xiao bowed slightly. Then Eunuch Xiao informed the Emperor of Tang that he found the divine sense of a peak grade 1 great grandmaster on Su Yueyun. Oh! Interesting. Interesting. The Emperor of Tang's demeanor was obviously much older, and he even coughed violently while speaking. Seeing this scene, Eunuch Xiao's expression changed slightly. He immediately stepped forward, stretched out his right hand, and slowly pressed it on the Emperor of Tang. After a while, the Emperor of Tang's complexion recovered a little, and he waved his hand and said, "What do you think the real owner of the jade pendant means?" "This old servant doesn't know." Eunuch Xiao paused for a while, and then continued, "But this old servant thinks that the real owner of the jade pendant should not be interested in the battle for the throne. The real function of that jade pendant is to protect, and there is no other purpose." Eunuch Xiao said slowly. It was precisely because of this that he changed his mind and agreed to let Su Yueyun and Li Sheng live together in the East Palace. After all, in the face of a peak grade 1 great grandmaster who has not shown any malice, showing goodwill appropriately can only be beneficial and not harmful. If the peak grade 1 great grandmaster standing behind Su Yueyun is willing to support Prince Li Sheng, let alone living in the East Palace, even conferring the title of Empress in the future will be a matter of a few words. As long as he can win over a peak grade 1, any price is worth paying. I know. It seems that the luck of this child is better than that of this emperor. The Emperor of Tang leaned slightly on the dragon throne and rubbed his eyebrows, trying to wake himself up. Eunuch Xiao waited on the side and did not speak. Suddenly, the palace fell into silence. After a long time, the Emperor of Tang said slowly, "To be honest, how long can I live?" Eunuch Xiao's expression changed slightly when he heard this. After a moment of silence, he said, 3 years, even if this old servant does his best, I can only guarantee that your Majesty can live for 3 years. 3 years, it's almost enough time." The Emperor of Tang's expression did not change, as if he didn't hear how long he could live at all. Shaolin Temple. Since obtaining the past Amitabha Sutra, Su Qin seems to have returned to the time when he was in grade 9 martial Dao. He can feel his strength improving every day. The only drawback is that it consumes too many glazed golden cores. It's almost time. It's time to break through. In the back mountain forbidden area, Su Qin sat cross-legged, slowly circulating the true essence in his body and adjusting his state. After consuming dozens of glazed golden cores, Su Qin's cultivation base finally reached peak Arhat first heavenly layer. Let's start. With a thought in Su Qin's mind, 20 glazed golden cores suddenly appeared in front of him. In order to ensure that the breakthrough is foolproof, Su Qin also put in a lot of effort and prepared to use 20 glazed golden cores to force a breakthrough. 1 glazed golden core is enough for a venerable Arhat to digest and absorb for several months. With 20 of them added together, the terrifying medicinal power is probably enough to make venerable Arhat explode. If Su Qin didn't have the past Amitabha Sutra to protect his body, he wouldn't dare to do this. Gulp. Su Qin swallowed a glazed golden core and began to circulate the past Amitabha Sutra to refine the rolling medicinal power. Almost instantly, Su Qin's body began to slowly transform again. Time slowly passed, and Su Qin's aura became stronger and stronger, as if the vast void was endless. If it wasn't for the back mountain forbidden area and the Buddha's palm seal left by Turahan, Su Qin's aura would have soared into the sky and suppressed the entire Shaolin Temple. Just like this, Su Qin's true essence became more and more boiling. Finally, at a certain moment, it seemed to have broken through some kind of shackles and reached a new realm. Buzz. I've finally entered the second heavenly layer of Arhat. Su Qin slowly opened his eyes, and a smile appeared on his face. Chapter 75. Back Mountain Forbidden Grounds. After Su Qin broke through, he took a deep breath. In an instant, the surging heaven and earth essence qi was sucked into his mouth like a whale sucking in water. "I'm so hungry." Su Qin felt that every bone and muscle in his body was trembling, crazily devouring the heaven and earth essence qi that was pouring into his body. Unfortunately, the heaven and earth essence qi was thin to begin with and could not satisfy the replenishment of his body after the breakthrough. Su Qin had no choice but to take out several glazed golden cores. After the glazed golden cores as pure as glass entered his mouth, they turned into a huge amount of medicinal power that filled every part of his body. Half an hour later, Su Qin opened his eyes again. "I didn't expect that after breaking through to the second heaven, I still need a lot of heaven and earth essence qi to replenish my body," Su Qin whispered to himself. If he had not prepared the glazed golden cores, he would have only been able to absorb the heaven and earth essence qi slowly and even cause some damage to his body. But it's all over now. Now I've truly entered the second heaven realm of Arhat. Su Qin's thoughts turned and he looked at his hands, carefully feeling something. In terms of true essence, it's at least 2 to 3 times stronger. My physical body isn't as exaggerated as true essence, but it's still improved. As for my divine sense, it's almost twice as pure, and its range has expanded greatly. Su Qin continued to speculate and finally came to a conclusion. The current me is at least 5 times stronger than before the breakthrough. Su Qin was very satisfied. Originally, a venerable Arhat was already a taboo among taboo, enough to suppress all demons and monsters. But now, Su Qin was equivalent to 5 venerable Arhat. What did that mean? As long as Su Qin wanted to, he could now sweep the world. The empire of Tang and Mengyuan could all stand aside. First, stabilize the realm. Su Qin slowly collected his thoughts. The so-called stabilization of one's realm was naturally not to worry about one's realm slipping. Now that Su Qin had completely stepped into the second heavenly layer, unless he suffered from qi deviation on the spot and his true essence went berserk, it was absolutely impossible for him to drop his realm. Buddhist cultivation techniques were known for their deep foundations, let alone a supreme scripture like the past Amitabha Sutra. The reason why Su Qin wanted to stabilize his realm was because he wanted to familiarize himself with his skyrocketing power. Over the next few months, Su Qin began to read some Buddhist scriptures in addition to his cultivation. Although it had been more than 20 years and Su Qin had already gone through these Buddhist scriptures, now that Su Qin had entered the realm of Arhat, he had a different feeling when he read them again. During this period, Su Qin also didn't forget to sign in. The holy elixirs, divine arts, and secret manuals that he obtained from signing in every day were all thrown into the system space by Su Qin for future use. The flow of time in the system space has almost stopped, so there will be no problem of elixirs losing effectiveness. While reading the Buddhist scriptures, Su Qin would occasionally give advice to Xianxia. After this little novice monk entered the 7th grade martial artist, he was still preparing to rush into the middle realm in a short time. But in the end he was stopped by Su Qin. The possessor of Buddha's heart can indeed have unimaginable convenience in martial arts cultivation. But in the past, every possessor of Buddha's heart was unable to achieve the realm of Arhat. Instead, some people who started out ordinary finally set foot on the Great Tao. As for the reason in the middle, Su Qin probably guessed it. Therefore, he let Xianxia slowly experience the difference of each realm and then try to break through. On this day, Su Qin was thinking about how many glazed golden cores he should take when suddenly his expression changed and he looked outside the back mountain forbidden area. He saw Xianxia standing there cautiously, not knowing whether to come in or not. "Come in." A calm voice sounded in Xianxia's ear. "Yes, Venerable One." Xianxia let out a sigh of relief. So, Xianxia came in front of Su Qin. After a few years, Xianxia has basically gotten rid of the immaturity of a teenager. Coupled with the internal strength of a 7th grade martial artist, he is basically the same as a normal man. "Venerable One." Xianxia respectfully bowed to Su Qin. Because Su Qin never said that he would accept Xianxia as a disciple, Xianxia can only be like Abbot Huiwen and call Su Qin Venerable One. Are you going to break through? Su Qin glanced at Xianku and said. In fact, as early as before Xianku came in, Su Qin already knew about Xianku's situation. Venerable One, I can't suppress it anymore. Xianku said in a low voice. Since you can't suppress it, then break through. Su Qin said casually, break through here. Su Qin asked Xianku to postpone his breakthrough, not because he can't break through. Now that Xianku has almost reached the limit of suppression, if he doesn't break through, it will be harmful to himself. When Xianku heard this, he immediately sat cross-legged. Compared to the vision caused by Su Qin's breakthrough, Xianku's breakthrough was simply silent. In fact, this was normal. The cultivation of martial artists below the upper realm is mainly focused on the physical body and internal strength, and it doesn't involve the world's essence qi at all. Since it has nothing to do with the world's essence qi, there will naturally be no vision. In less than half an hour, Xianku stepped from the 7th grade martial artist to the 6th grade martial artist. There is only a difference of 1 realm between the 6th grade and the 7th grade, but it is the difference between the lower realm and the middle realm. This bottleneck had trapped countless martial artists in the pugilistic world. Thank you, Venerable One. Xianku got up and said respectfully, since you have broken through, go down. Su Qin looked at Xianku and said, Venerable One. However, Xianku looked hesitant. He wanted to say something but stopped on second thought. What's the matter? Su Qin raised his eyebrows and asked directly. With Su Qin's understanding of Xianku in the past few years, if the other party has nothing important, he wouldn't dare to speak like this. Venerable One, I found a stone door under a hill near the Dharma court. There are some Buddha patterns carved on the stone door. It's very mysterious. Xianku paused for a while and continued, this stone door is very heavy, I can't push it open at all. Stone door. Su Qin repeated in a low voice. His huge divine sense quickly spread out, like a hurricane, sweeping back and forth the place that Xianku mentioned several times. However, what surprised Su Qin was that he didn't find the stone door that Xianku mentioned. Venerable One. I seem to feel that something in the stone door is attracting me. Xianku's face was full of confusion. Something in the stone door was attracting Xianku, but Xianku couldn't push the stone door open. This made him feel very conflicted. Su Qin was silent. If Xianku wasn't lying, it meant that the stone door had used some method to deceive his divine sense. Chapter 76. Interesting. Su Qin's expression did not change, but his interest was piqued. One must know that he was now the venerable arhat of the second heaven. Under the cover of his divine sense, almost everything was visible. Unless it was a powerhouse of the same level, there was no way he could miss anything. Could it be that the stone gate was the work of a certain venerable arhat of the Shaolin Temple? Su Qin pondered in his heart. He did not suspect that Xianku was lying. First, because Xianku did not have the guts to do so. Second, because the place Xianku said was in the Shaolin Temple. If Su Qin wanted to verify it, he could do it in an instant. It seems that there are still some secrets in the Shaolin Temple that I don't know, Su Qin sighed in his heart. The Shaolin Temple was a major martial arts sect with thousands of years of heritage. There were many venerable arhat. Su Qin would not believe that it did not have some foundation. Venerable, what I said is true. Xianku saw that Su Qin did not speak for a long time. He thought that Su Qin did not believe him and suddenly became anxious. Hearing this, Su Qin smiled and said softly, I know. Now lead the way. I will accompany you to have a look. Su Qin was very curious about which venerable arhat of the Shaolin Temple left the stone gate. So, with Xianku leading the way, Su Qin came to the stone gate. It's here. Su Qin glanced around. This was the back of a hill. It was overgrown with grass and trees. Usually, almost no disciples would come here. And the stone gate that Xianku mentioned was in an inconspicuous corner. This is, Su Qin sensed it carefully. Heaven and earth formation? Su Qin narrowed his eyes. Whether it was Venerable Arhat or the martial arts legend, they had both transcended the realm of the 9 ranks of the martial arts path. Their cultivation was no longer limited to their own bodies. Instead, it was more about comprehending the heavens and earth. As for the heaven and earth formation, it was something that Venerable Arhat had comprehended from heaven and earth. There were many types of heaven and earth great arrays. Some were more inclined towards suppression, such as the heaven and earth great array in the demon suppressing tower. Some leaned towards killing enemies, while others leaned towards concealment. The heaven and earth formation on the stone door in front of them belonged to the concealment type. It was because of this heaven and earth great array that Su Qin's divine sense could be temporarily concealed. Venerable One, this is the place. Xian Ku pointed at the stone door and said in a low voice. I understand. Su Qin took a step forward and appeared outside the stone door. Where is this? In Su Qin's pupils, there was an inexplicable whirlpool spinning. Since he knew that there was a heaven and earth great array here, Su Qin naturally would not continue to explore with his divine consciousness. Rumble. Su Qin raised his right hand and gently pressed on the stone door. Suddenly, it was as if he had touched a certain mechanism. The whole stone door began to slowly retreat, revealing a dark entrance. Venerable One, Xian Ku was dumbfounded. He had tried his best, but he still couldn't open the stone door. But in Su Qin's hands, the stone door was so obedient, and it was opened directly? Su Qin did not speak and walked towards the entrance unhurriedly. Through the eye of truth, Su Qin was very sure that there was nothing in the entrance that could threaten him. Su Qin walked along the stone steps in the entrance and kept walking inside. Xian Ku, on the other hand, stood outside obediently. He didn't want to go in and cause trouble for Su Qin. So, Su Qin walked down the stone steps and came to a very empty secret room. There were many bookshelves in the secret room, and many Buddhist scriptures were placed on them. However, most of the Buddhist scriptures had already rotted, and only a few were left. Some Buddhist scriptures made of special bark were barely preserved. This secret room has existed for at least 1,000 years. Su Qin guessed in his heart as he walked deeper into the secret room. Soon, he reached the end of the path and saw a monk in a golden cassock sitting there quietly with his legs crossed. The monk in the golden cassock was no longer breathing. Obviously, he had already passed away. He is Tuarahan? Su Qin carefully looked at the monk in the golden cassock and his expression changed slightly. Tuarahan was the last Venerable Arhat of the Shaolin Temple. Naturally, there were pictures of him in the temple for future disciples to admire. In fact, not only Tuarahan, but all the other Venerable Arhat of the Shaolin Temple were the same. Tuarahan from 900 years ago, Su Qin's thoughts turned quickly. There were many rumors about Tuarahan in the Shaolin Temple. As the last Venerable Arhat, Tuarahan passed away in a hurry before he was 400 years old in order to suppress the Devil Buddha. Even the Buddha's palm was lost because of this. No wonder I didn't see Tuarahan's Dharmakaya in the 1,000 Buddhas Hall. So it was here, Su Qin's thoughts fluctuated. This place should have been set up by Tuarahan before he passed away. The heaven and earth great formation outside should also be something he left behind. Su Qin thought silently in his heart. Although he didn't know why Tuarahan didn't pass away in the 1,000 Buddhas Hall but chose this secret room instead, it didn't matter now. That's right. This place has existed for thousands of years. Will there be Dao accumulation for me to sign in? Su Qin's heart moved. It just so happened that he didn't have a chance to sign in today, so he tried to say in his heart, "System, sign in for me." Congratulations to the host for signing in successfully. Obtained Millennium Bodhi Heart. Millennium Bodhi Heart? Su Qin looked happy. Bodhi Heart is a sacred object of Buddhism and is extremely precious. The Shaolin Temple has been open for thousands of years, but very few Bodhi Hearts have appeared. The number of Bodhi Hearts is even rarer than Venerable Arhat. Even an ordinary Bodhi Heart can let a Grade 1 Great Grandmaster see their true nature, have frequent epiphanies, and greatly reduce the possibility of cultivation deviation, let alone a Millennium Bodhi Heart. More than 10 years ago, if Abbot Huiwen had a Bodhi Heart when he was breaking through, Even if he failed in the end, he wouldn't have cultivation deviation. Unfortunately, the last Bodhi heart that appeared in the Shaolin Temple was lost hundreds of years ago and hasn't been recovered yet. As for the Millennium Bodhi heart, in the ancient records of the Shaolin Temple, this kind of Millennium Bodhi heart only exists in legends, and no one can prove whether the Millennium Bodhi heart exists in the world or not. Not bad, not bad. Su Qin nodded slightly. After signing in, he obtained a Millennium Bodhi heart. Even if Su Qin turned around and left now, he still gained a lot. Glancing at the pale golden Millennium Bodhi heart that suddenly appeared in the system space, Su Qin calmed down and looked at Tarahan again. As Venerable Arhat, his body is very strong. Even after thousands of years, he can still maintain his appearance. Su Qin glanced at Tarahan, and his eyes quickly fell on a stone wall in front of Tarahan. Huh! Su Qin just glanced at the stone wall, and his expression changed, as if he saw something incredible. Chapter 77. I, too, am guilty. I, too, am the eternal sinner of the Shaolin Temple. At the beginning of the stone wall was this line of bloody words, full of endless regret. This stone wall was right in front of Tarahan, and the bloody words on it were obviously written by Tarahan. It should be that Tarahan had suffered greatly before his death, and finally carved these words. Guilty? Tarahan is the Venerable Arhat of the Shaolin Temple. Even if the Buddha's palm was lost in the end, it was also because of the suppression of the Devil Buddha. No matter how you look at it, he is not guilty. Su Qin's thoughts turned quickly, and he quickly looked at the bottom of the stone wall. Su Qin had a feeling that everything he saw next was probably the biggest secret of the Shaolin Temple 900 years ago, during the era of Tarahan. A moment later, Su Qin basically finished reading the bloody words on the stone wall. According to the description of Tarahan, he achieved Arhat when he was 150 years old and was invincible in the world. Finally, when he was traveling the world, he received a disciple. This disciple's qualifications were terrifying to the extreme and even far surpassed the young Tarahan. This made Tarahan overjoyed, and he felt that there was hope for the inheritance of the Shaolin Temple. One must know that even the Venerable Arhat could only protect the Shaolin Temple for 500 years. After 500 years, when the time comes, the Venerable Arhat will also pass away. But the disciple that Tarahan accepted made him see hope. He saw the hope of breaking through the Arhat realm. Sure enough, Tarahan's disciple completed 3 transformations in a few decades, reaching grade 1 great perfection, and achieved Arhat before the age of 100. Achieving Arhat before the age of 100, what kind of terrifying qualifications is this? However, things changed. After Tarahan's disciple achieved Arhat, his temperament suddenly changed, and finally he even fought with Tarahan. In the end, this disciple turned into the Devil Buddha and wanted to destroy the Shaolin Temple. When Su Qin saw this, he was silent. Although Su Qin had long known from the ancient books of the Shaolin Temple that the Devil Buddha, who almost destroyed the Shaolin Temple 900 years ago, was a disciple of the Shaolin Temple. But Su Qin did not expect that the Devil Buddha was not only a disciple of the Shaolin Temple, but also a pro-disciple of Tarahan. Tarahan is the current Venerable Arhat of the Shaolin Temple. How high is his status? And the Devil Buddha, as a pro-disciple of Tarahan, in the entire Shaolin Temple, I am afraid that he is second only to Tarahan. No wonder Tarahan feels guilty. It turns out that the magic that almost destroyed the Shaolin Temple was the disciple that Tarahan painstakingly cultivated. Su Qin sighed leisurely. Until now, he finally understood why Tarahan chose to pass away in meditation here and not in the Thousand Buddhas Hall. Perhaps it was because he was ashamed to face the ancestors of the Shaolin Temple. Su Qin had a rough idea of what happened later. After realizing that not only did he not cultivate the next Venerable Arhat of the Shaolin Temple, but he also became a great devil who would bring disaster to the world, Tarahan chose to suppress the Devil Buddha without hesitation. However, Tarahan did not expect that the Devil Buddha, who had only stepped into the realm of Arhat for a few decades, would have reached a level similar to his. Devil Chi and Buddhist power changed freely with his every move, and he was actually able to faintly suppress Tarahan. This scene made Tarahan decide to suppress the Devil Buddha no matter the price. Otherwise, if the Devil Buddha was allowed to grow for a few more decades, who in the world would be able to suppress him? In the end, Tarahan used Buddha's palm as the price of 100 years of Shoyuan to suppress the Devil Buddha. After the Devil Buddha was suppressed, Tarahan knew that he wouldn't live for much longer, so he hurriedly chose this place to pass away. What a pity! Su Qin shook his head slightly and glanced at the two wooden boxes placed in front of Tarahan. Inside the wooden boxes were the Buddhist techniques that Tarahan practiced and a Bodhi heart. Su Qin naturally didn't care about these. In the past 20 years of signing in at the Shaolin Temple, he had obtained countless Buddhist techniques, from the most powerful techniques like Buddha's palm to the most ordinary techniques. It wouldn't be an exaggeration to say that he had obtained a vast amount of them. As for the Bodhi heart, if Su Qin hadn't received the 1,000-year Bodhi heart just now, he might have taken a few more glances at this Bodhi heart. But at this moment, the 1,000-year Bodhi heart was placed in the system space. Compared to the 1,000-year Bodhi heart, this Bodhi heart in front of him was no different from a stone on the side of the road. It was nothing at all. I finally understand the origin of the Devil Buddha. So he's the only direct disciple of Tarahan. Su Qin glanced at Tarahan, who had passed away 900 years ago, and felt a little complicated. Perhaps for the Tarahan, at that time, when he accepted the Devil Buddha as his disciple, he never thought that one day he would personally nurture a Devil Buddha. It's time to go. With a thought, the two wooden boxes placed in front of Tarahan fell into Su Qin's hands. He didn't like these things, but Xianxia outside could use them. While Su Qin's thoughts were fluctuating, he turned around and left the secret room. As for the Dharma body of Tarahan that had passed away, Su Qin had no intention of moving. Firstly, it was because passing away here meant pa. Secondly, Tarahan cultivated the Devil Buddha that almost destroyed the Shaolin Temple. Even if it was unintentional, a mistake was still a mistake. Outside the stone door, Xianxia's eyes widened as he stared at the stone door. Why hasn't the Venerable One come out yet? Xianxia had a worried look on his face. Although in Xianxia's heart, the Venerable One was omnipotent, he still hadn't come out after such a long time. At this moment, a slight sound of footsteps came from inside the stone door. Then, Su Qin's figure slowly walked out. Venerable One. Xianxia trotted to Su Qin's side, and at the same time, carefully looked inside the stone door. Under Xianxia's gaze, the stone door began to slowly block the entrance, and everything returned to its original state. You don't have to come to this place in the future. Su Qin glanced at Xianxia, and directly threw the wooden box containing the Bodhi heart into his hand. This is for you. After signing in and obtaining the Millennium Bodhi heart, ordinary Bodhi hearts had basically lost their attraction to Su Qin. Even 10,000 Bodhi hearts couldn't compare to a Millennium Bodhi heart. To others, the Bodhi heart was extremely precious, but in Su Qin's eyes, it was like a dispensable stone. If anyone asks, just say that I gave it to you. After saying this, Su Qin's figure disappeared from where he stood. Welcome to Legends of Cultivation audiobooks, where we bring ancient fantasy to life through storytelling. Follow the rise of heroes who defy fate, unlock mystical powers, and battle across celestial realms. Our audiobooks are crafted for fans of Chinese cultivation novels, filled with battles, breakthroughs, and legendary artifacts. Subscribe and be part of an unforgettable journey into the realm of immortality.